Good evening. Ihoa. Bonsoir. Buenas noches. Hi there. My name is Dr. Frances Scully, and I'm behind in my writing, and I'm probably going to be behind for a little while because I've restarted teaching the 8-week compassion cultivation training meditation course. And because I don't find I can write and teach and declutter and organize and try to do my rehabilitation. I can't do it all. So I have to reorganize things a little bit. And I've decided for now, although I enjoy writing, I don't know that I'm a particularly good writer, but I do enjoy it a lot now. I've got very addicted to writing. Prior to that, most of my life, I was addicted to reading. I have a very severe reading addiction. Now I've developed a writing addiction. And the downside of that is I really need to be rebuilding my damaged muscles and moving. And I sit when I'm reading and writing. So it's not good for my muscles. So I need to change that. Anyway, so here this evening, I want to talk again about the Be Compassionate NL Mighty network I am founding. And again, I'm going to try to invite people to come and maybe check out, join a little meet and greet there. I am hoping to actually do something live on Substack in a few weeks. I don't know how long it's going to take me because I have certain tasks I've got to get done and I keep getting delayed doing them. So I don't know how long that's going to take. Plus, I'm going to try and do that when I have a young person to help me, and the person who might help me. I have a couple of young people who might help me, but they're not available for a few weeks. And I need, as I said, to be clearing up my mess so that I'm a bit more organized before I get on to any new projects. But I do want to talk a little bit about why I would like as many of you as possible to check out. First of all, check out the Compassion Institute. This is an organization based in California, and the president is Thupten Jimpa. And he is Canadian Tibetan. For decades now, he has been the chief English language translator for His Holiness, the Dalai Lama of Tibet, who, from some people's point of view, is sort of like the leader of Buddhists on our planet. And I don't know how many Buddhists there are. Billions, at least billion, whatever. It's like everything. We all have multiple sides to us, and there's overlaps between different things and so on. But my background, so I never know what to say about my background because first of all, I'm adopted, and I have the only biologic member of my family I've met is my son, and who's my biologic relative. I could well have met other biologic relatives and not known. Possible. And I haven't pursued that recently for lots of reasons. Didn't have the time for one thing, and I did discover that my biologic mother lived to be 93 and never told a soul about me, and that she has had, I think, 2 other children, and one of them used to contact me by email and write to me in the Irish language, but I haven't heard from that person recently, so I'm not sure what's happening there, and I'm leaving that for now. And I was very fortunate. My only sister and I were fortunate. We were adopted into a darling, small Irish and English, devout Roman Catholic family. And as I keep explaining to people, who say to me things like, "Oh, you're Irish. You must hate the English." I'm like, like, what do you know about the Irish and the English? Like, it depends. Of course, if you've had bad experiences with English people, you're going to hate the English. Fair enough. But the English people I know, my cousins are delightful, and I've had a lot of good experiences with English people. So I don't hate English people, and I like English comedy a lot. And there you go. Now I also like lots of Irish people. I like a lot of different people. Like a lot of Canadians, and I like like a lot of different languages, and I like a lot of francophones. Yeah. So anyway, I like a lot of different things. And I'm also trying now, because I'm reviewing. I'm back teaching my 8-week compassion cultivation training course. So as part of my teaching, I'm teaching other people about the importance about releasing oxytocin, a very important hormone, because when we so it's natural for us humans to experience emotions, but experiencing the emotion of anger in our bodies is actually extreme. Well, if we allow it to continue, it's actually really bad for our health. Really bad for our health. Now, the commonest way suppressed anger shows up is with high blood pressure. Sorry, I know some people say it's all about salt, and there are some people susceptible to salt. The thing is, we humans are extraordinarily complex. Yeah. I've never counted them, but it is said that an adult male has 36 trillion cells. And I can certainly tell you, as a very experienced physician, clinical heterogeneity is huge. And there are some extraordinarily rare conditions that do exist, and they're fascinating. The one that I expected, actually, I've always, as a physician, I have an affinity for rare diseases. I know what it is. I sort of feel these people, definitely most of the time, they've won the wrong lotto altogether, because there can be many disadvantages to rare diseases. The one that I loved is factor 13 deficiency. So just everything about factor 13 fascinates me. The fact that somebody, and I think, like, for one thing, like, who does all the research on factor 13? Hungarians. A really, really lovely Hungarian man who's done wonders, because he's such a nice man. I'm not even going to mention his name here right now, because I don't know what's happening in Hungary, and I don't want Orban knocking on his door or anything. But the Hungarian who runs research on factor 13 is a delightful person. Lovely, lovely, lovely. But of course, Hungarian is a very interesting language, and it's one of the few languages spoken in Europe that is not an Indo-European language. Sanskrit is not its ancestral language. And the only other languages like that are Basque, spoken in the Himalayas, in the Pyrenees, sorry. Yeah, I'm fascinated with the Himalayas and the Pyrenees, and I haven't been to the Pyrenees at all. At least I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Yeah, so God willing, I have to get a lot healthier so I can go to the Pyrenees, because right now I'm not in good shape at all. And that is since I had chemotherapy for breast cancer in 2017, so I'm getting really fed up now. It's taking me so long to recover. But whatever happened to me with the chemotherapy in July 2017, I had the most dreadful reactions, and I had the most terrible brain fog. I had such a long list of reactions. I couldn't see properly for 8 months. I couldn't stand up for more than 20 minutes, and I was shaking. I was dizzy. I was everything was moving around me for 5 days after the treatment. Oh my God, it was just horrific. And I don't know if it was the Decadron, cyclophosphamide, or the Taxotere. Some people have tremendous reactions to Decadron, so it might have been the Decadron, but I think it was the Taxotere myself. But I can't. I've tried to sort that out, failed utterly. Anyway, I had a terrible reaction, and I had 4 of those treatments, and nobody listened to me. Because that's yeah, I didn't have this, and this is the thing. This is why I'm so into clinical heterogeneity. I didn't have the symptoms that the computers, the algorithm has decided you have to have your condition, your treatments modified. So when you're an oncology patient, there's an algorithm. Actually, anywhere you are now, there's an algorithm, and good luck to you trying to beat the algorithm. Now, Renaissance, whatever its name was, he had a bunch of mathematicians and developed algorithms to beat the stock market and made a total fortune, which is sort of interesting. But I just don't have that sort of mind. Yeah, I have to try to change my mindset to be a little bit more interested in earning some money, because I actually do need to earn some money. But unfortunately, although in theory, I have a very high mathematical score and I should be able to do all that stuff, sadly, I just don't have that interest or personality or whatever. I don't have a commercial side to me, and I'm hoping to develop it. Yeah, everything's possible, so I'm hoping to develop it. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. But yeah, so I tend to go with things that I find really interesting, like factor 13 deficiency. So as I said, it's a miracle it was ever found. A miracle. I'll have to look and see because factor 13. So in the coagulation cascade, which I loved working on. So this is the cascade that allows you to form a clot when you're supposed to form a clot. This is what stops you from bleeding to death if you cut yourself or something, the procoagulant pathways. So our blood is an extraordinary fluid, because it has to go circulating all around the body, and it has so many things it has to do, right? It has to, when we breathe in, we have to breathe in oxygen, and that has to be carried by something. And it's carried by an extraordinary molecule called hemoglobin. And in an adult, there's 2 alpha and 2 beta chains. But unusually, the alpha chains there are 4 genes that control the alpha chains. And for pretty well everything else. Now, I'd have to check with the geneticists, because they're all the geneticists. Oh my God, there's no end to them. They're always discovering things. So they could have discovered other things. So I could be all wrong about that. But that was the alpha chains generally are the ones that there are 4 genes, whereas most of the time there's 2 genes. So the thing is, for different genetic conditions, some are autosomal dominant, meaning that if you have that gene, it could express in you even if only one of your parents have it. And then there's sex linked, which goes from father to daughter to son. And this is the pattern for the hemophilias A and B, which I also spent a lot of time studying. And the reason I live in Newfoundland and Labrador is that I'd heard for years that there was a very unusual population of patients with mild hemophilia A living in Newfoundland and Labrador. And there was. Now, a lot of them have moved on to other parts of Canada, so there isn't such a high population now, but there was a high population living around the area of Twillingate on the east coast of Newfoundland and Labrador. And one of the most enjoyable parts of my entire career was when I used to go out and research the haemophilia in Twillingate with a wonderful team of people, and I met the most wonderful people out there. And at the time, Dr. Mohammed Ravalia was a wonderful family doctor, and he had come from, I think, Tanzania. He's one of the Ishmailis who came to Canada to get away from some horrible stuff happening, and he's now a senator. Lovely person, Dr. Ravalia. We're lucky to have him. Beautiful person. And so And I used to go out, we used to rent a van and head off out across the beautiful island of Newfoundland and Labrador with a lovely team. And we used to sing in the car. And I used to go with wonderful nurses. Marilyn Harvey, the most wonderful nurse ever. And she was the organizer. And she used to talk about the POA, Plan of Action. And you see, I hate organizing anything, and I love to be organized by somebody who's got my best interest at heart. That's what I like. I like a bossy person who's actually, bossing me for the right reasons. So Marilyn was perfect. Very bossy, very good hearted, and always had a POA. So she was just like shepherding me along, so I wasn't off waffling, talking to people about factor 13, something that they weren't interested in. So I'm your real like goofy professor type thing. Anyway, I'm going to stop here for now because I'm being too much of a goofy professor, and I'm just kind of having a bit of fun. And I really wanted to explain what the compassion cultivation training course is all about, but I'm sort of too tired now to get into that and why I'm doing that. And but I will try and come back tomorrow to do that. And if you want to learn more about the compassion cultivation training, so first of all, if you go to the Compassion Institute website, you can find information there, or to the Center for Compassion and Altruism Research and Education at Stanford Medical School, and you'll find all sorts of information there. And so there's now hundreds of people certified to teach the Compassion Cultivation Training Meditation course. And the big thing I want to tell you here, as a physician, a licensed physician in Newfoundland and Labrador in Canada, because my friend was just over here and I was telling her I was having trouble getting people to take the course with me, and she wouldn't go on the Mighty Network app with me, but she did show me the site she does use, which is called Insight Timer. And Insight Timer apparently has 30 million followers, and apparently gets everybody all into meditation and yoga and all these great teachers, blah, 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 blah. Okay? The thing that gets me wild as a physician is anybody who tells you about anything, any treatment that is 100% good for you and has no side effects. Because, my darlings, anybody who is telling you to try a therapy or treatment that is going to work for you 100% and has no side effects is lying through their teeth. Now, I trained to teach Christian meditation in 2004. I gave it up because I had some horrible experiences and I couldn't explain exactly what the heck was happening to me. And I was talking to people today and I was telling them the only person who I ever had a conversation with about this who understood exactly what I was talking about was a local Roman Catholic Jesuit who had similar experiences. But most people, if they have them, don't talk about these experiences because they don't want people to think they're nuts. And it doesn't come up in general conversation because in Canada, and as a physician, there's a textbook of clinical medicine that everybody learns, Bates, and it has all these questions you ask people and so on. And you don't ask people about their meditation practice or their contemplative prayer practice. No, it's not part of the questionnaire. So physicians don't talk to their patients about it generally. Yeah, and then meditation teachers often don't know anything about this. And so one of the people who brought all this to light is a Canadian who now lives in the States, and his name is David Treleaven. If you're interested in meditation, if you're interested in the truth, look up David Treleaven. Now, I don't think he's the only person anymore. There's other people researching this, but 25% of people. So left, right, and center, you have all sorts of people teaching mindfulness. Now, some of those people teaching mindfulness, for example, Andrew Safer, who's an American who lives in St. John's, Newfoundland, and who trained with a particular Tibetan master. I'd have to check with Andrew which one because there's a number of them, but a particular Tibetan school. Andrew has been teaching mindfulness for years, and Andrew is very, very, very sincere. He's written 2 books, and so you're probably okay with Andrew. I don't agree with him about everything, but he certainly is going to be very careful and attentive and responsive if you have any problems. And there, no doubt, are other meditation teachers who have good training and all that good stuff. And, people who are spiritual guides, whatever. Other than I may have my doubts, but there you go. There are yoga therapists where I live who are fabulous. One of them is Lena Butler, and she's superb. So there are great people doing great things. But things come in and out of books. So there's also all sorts of people teaching mindfulness and meditation, and they are Christian meditation, and they perhaps haven't had all that much information, because when I trained to teach Christian meditation, I only had a weekend at it, and it was lovely and wonderful, but it wasn't enough. And as I said, I had some really, really scary experiences. So I just thought, well, I'm just leaving this alone. I'm not going near this. I don't like this. And I had enough other things to be worrying about. And at the time, I was very busy at work. And then my husband was very ill and a lot of things. So I just left aside the meditation. And then in 2016, I discovered, by listening to the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation interviewing Dr. Vincent Felitti, that there's this massive adverse childhood experiences study, and which shows very clearly that what happens in early childhood can have an impact on the health and well-being of that child, that person, for the rest of their lives. And it also showed that emotional, psychological abuse and neglect is just as devastating as physical, sexual, financial abuse and neglect. And of course, a lot of these things can go together, but not always. So there are extremely wealthy people who experience horrible abuse. There's actually a U-shaped curve for that. So people who are born into very, very prestigious, high-class families, whether it's European monarchy or Asian monarchy or monarchy wherever, or whether it's Trump Tower or whatever, people born into very wealthy families, children can be abused and neglected because they may be left in the care of nannies, some of which may be darlings and some of which may not. So life is very, very, very complicated. Anyway, and early childhood is a very critical time, and it's very important that we do everything possible to make sure that babies and children are loved, protected, and have lots and lots of time, ideally with a primary caregiver, ideally their biologic mother. But if for whatever reason that's not optimal, it can be somebody else. But what is important is in the first 9 months of life that the baby experiences something called mirroring. And unfortunately, when my beautiful sons were young, I didn't know anything about this. Anyway, but so the person I recommend to listen to if you're interested in early childhood development, if you're interested in the mind and body and how these influence illness, is Dr. Gabor Mate. Dr. Gabor Mate is an incredible Canadian, Hungarians again, I love the Hungarians, Jewish physician, author, speaker, and I cannot recommend him enough. And he's written a number of books. Now, he, like me, suffers from ADHD, and he wanders around the different topics and stuff. Maybe that's why I like him. We've had some similar incidents in life, including going to the airport like a whole day ahead. He talks about that, and I've done the same thing. So keen to be on time that I'm there like 24 hours early. Terrible. But his latest book is co-authored with his son Daniel, and that I think has done a lot for the editing, Daniel. So anyway, I love Dr. Mate to pieces, and I love his son Daniel to pieces, and I no doubt I'd love all the other family members if I knew more about them, but they're lovely. And I recommend his book. Oh, what is it called? The Myth of Normal. Yeah, as really a great introduction to early childhood development and the mind, body, and how it affects our health and wellness. But that said, that book's not for everybody. I've given it to a lot of people. My friends who are teachers couldn't get into it at all. No, and some physician friends got into it, so it's not for everybody. It really, really, really worked for me, and it's a big read, huge book. But he also has lots of talks. You can find him on YouTube, and he's courses online and so on. So I really love Dr. Gabor Mate and recommend him no end. And he has nothing to do that I know with the Compassion Institute or the Center for Compassion and Altruism Research and Education. And here you see the problem. See, I'm inclined to waft off and talk about other people, not about this my course and the Sea Care and the Compassion Institute. Sorry, I'm just laughing now. I'm going to stop because I am tired and I am sort of in a giggly mood. But I'm saying, Ihawa, good night, rest well, and please, if you have a moment, check out becompassionatenl.ca and consider trying the Mighty Network. And then I'm going to try and come back and do some talks and try and explain why this CCT course is great. And if you could do it with me, that's great. But there are hundreds of other people, and they're listed on the website for Compassion Institute and Sea Care. So, Ihawa, good night, bon nuit, bonne noche.